Kevin, when we do the votes, do you want me when we do the votes, do you want me to take the roll call for you?
You're
You
on
want-
mute, Kevin.
I said, sure.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Lynn,
we're good to go where everyone's here and we are recording.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, good evening. This is the December 15, 2020 regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of New Canaan, Connecticut. As we have been doing in the past, Lynn Abney, the town planner, will be running the Zoom call. Reminder to commissioners as well as any other speakers, please state your name when you speak. And I'll start with a roll call. John Goodwin, I am here. Mr. Chris?
He's raising his hand, but he's on mute.
Okay,
Yeah,
Mr.
here.
Radman? Mr. Radman?
Here.
Ms. Discornia?
Here.
Mr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Ward?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Nielsen?
Here.
Mr. Cassavant?
Here.
Okay, and Mr. Flynn and Ms. Grislecki are not attending this evening. So let's go to the organizational meeting. I'll turn the meeting over to the first selectman, Mr. Moynihan. Kevin?
Good evening, commissioners. It's my pleasure to attend tonight to conduct your election of officers. And first of all, I want to thank you all for your service. This is a great commission and one that I always call the hardest working commission. So the town and I appreciate your service. Also, I would mention that we just had a small ceremony with Jack Flynn. Jack is retiring from the commission, and we at this morning's Board of Selectmen meeting made some reappointments. This commission, like one other commission, was a victim of COVID because we had not done the reappointments last year. So we have today reappointed Dick and Jean, Kent and John, and Krista has been appointed as a regular member, and Chris Herring from the Parking Commission will be moving over to be an alternate. So with that, I would call for election nominations for chairman. If anybody has a nomination for chairman.
Nominate John Goodwin.
Dick Ward nominates John Goodwin. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations for chairman? Hearing none. All in favor of giving John another term as chairman?
Okay, I think I have to do a roll call. So John Goodwin, with some reservations, I vote yes. Mr. Chris? Mr. Radman?
Yes.
Ms. Discornia?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
2 thumbs up.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mr. Cassavant?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Kevin?
Okay, so do I have a nomination? I see Jean's not here, but do I have a nomination for secretary?
I'll nominate her as well.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Kent?
Second.
Any further nominations for secretary? Hearing none. All in favor of electing Jean to another term?
Okay, I vote yes, this time without reservations. Mr. Chris? Mr. Radman?
Yes.
Ms. Discornia?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mr. Cassavant?
Yes.
Okay,
John, with that, I'm going to depart for another committee meeting, but I want to thank everyone again and wish everyone the happy holiday season and be careful of the snow tomorrow night.
same to you, Kevin, and as always, thank you for all your interaction with us as a commission and your help and all the support you give us. You take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we get going, I do want to, we did have a pre-meeting with Mr. Flynn, and I just want to reiterate what we talked about. And, you know, what I said is Mr. Flynn served 8 wonderful years as a commissioner. What I always loved about him was, as I said earlier, is he bled New Canaan black and red. He was passionate about what he did in this position, and yet he always did it in a collegial manner. So I thank Jack. I welcome Chris Herring. I don't think he's on tonight. He can't be an alternate yet because he hasn't been sworn in. But I want to, we look forward to joining him. He's been on the Parking Commission for a number of years. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of insight. So I look forward to him joining the commission. And Krista Nielsen, congratulations on you becoming a regular member. It should have happened a longer time ago, but as Kevin says, this is one of the hardest working commissions in New Canaan, and you're one of the hardest working commissioners on the commission. So welcome to your regular member status. And finally, I would just like to thank all of you. It was it was a different year, but it was another, it was another tough year. And once again, as I always say, we debate. I think sometimes we get a little bit mad with each other, but it's always done in the right way. All of you commissioners are thoughtful. You do your homework, and I appreciate your support to me as chair. And we'll say this at the end of the night too, but certainly enjoy your holidays. And we've got you may not or may want to hear this, but we got a lot of stuff coming next year. So buckle your seatbelts. Okay, let's do seatings. Mrs. Nielsen, since you're not sworn in as a regular meeting, you're still an alternate, so you're seated for Mr. Flynn. And Mr. Cassavant, you are seated for Mrs. Grzelewski. So let's get going with the regular meeting, or the public hearing. So item number 1, 33 Father Peters Lane, upon application, David Rucci, Lampert Tui, authorized agent for Jack Loop and Laura Loop owners for a special permit approval, sections 34C3 and 34C6, to allow an accessory building 115 feet from the front yard setback in lieu of 150 feet for property located in the 4-acre zone at 33 Father Peters Lane. Mr. Rucci.
Hi, good evening. This evening I'm here to represent the Loops. I'm not sure if Jack Loop was able to get on. He had a conflict with another board meeting, so he may come in, he may not. He, for some odd reason, thought this was Friday. But anyway, I just want to give you a little background first about the application. Initially, this was actually approved via a zoning permit, and they were getting ready to start working on the site and realized that they had mismeasured the front yard setback. They had actually measured it, I think, to the middle of the private road, essentially then putting it within that 150 feet of the front yard. So I just wanted to bring that up because they'd already gotten septic approval for it, and they'd already filed applications for it, and it wasn't until after they realized where it was going to be that the surveyor came out and said, well, wait a second, you're within the 150 feet. So that's how it got here to begin with. The applicant's property is about 4 acres in the zone, 4.029. And while it's allowable to have 8,764 square feet of coverage, they only have about 3,060 of existing coverage. Thank you, Lynn. So here's the way the property looks. It's on a private road, and Father Peters and John Marshall kind of come together, and you'll see that it's an old, like 1935 house. And most of the activity for this house is over on the western side of the property, as you can see there. And what they're attempting to do is move their mother-in-law onto the site. So they've a fairly modest 1-story building, about 600 square feet. I believe my narrative is incorrect. I think my narrative says 544 square feet because that's what I'm looking at, but it's actually 600 square feet if you look at the survey calculation numbers. So it's a 1-story building. It's kind of nestled into the eastern side of the property where the country club is. So I believe that's one of the golf course holes on that side of the property where it says utility trench. So there's not really a lot of neighbors in and around that particular area. They are going to be putting in a little bit of screening on the front of the property. Like I said, they hadn't really gone forward with all sorts of landscape applications and things of that nature because they actually didn't think it was going to be necessary or required until they did the front yard. They realized the front yard setback was in violation for this. So there are going to be a couple trees, evergreen trees in the front of the property. But other than that, it's pretty well screened if any of you have been able to get out and take a look at it. It's going to be the same siding, the same roof, both cedar roof and cedar shingles on the property. And like I said, there's no other, it was moved up to this part of the property because it happens to be sort of the flattest. And that's going to be where the their mother-in-law and mother is going to be staying. So it has to be kind of close enough to the house, but still have enough privacy, but also be walkable back to and from the main residence. There's no additional driveway here. There's no kitchen facilities in this particular in-law suite. It really is a true in-law suite, just doesn't happen to be connected to the building itself. The building plans on the property, like I said, it's a one-story building. There's no basement, it's a crawl space. The loft area is going to be strictly for mechanicals. The first floor has a small bedroom, a little waiting area, sitting area, and a bathroom. And like I said, the second floor is just for mechanicals, and there will be a closet that leads up, that has a staircase that leads up to that particular part of the property, to the loft on the property. We did talk to a couple of the neighbors. They were just interested to know where anything was. They all seemed perfectly fine once I showed them the map and sent it over to them. The Alfieri's called me and asked a couple questions, and they were fine after they realized where it was going to go. There's no wetlands on this property. It will have its own septic system, its own electricity, its own water. And we think it's a fairly modest application as far as being an accessory structure on this large lot, being that it still has like 4,000 to 5,000 square feet of additional coverage that could be used on the particular lot. We believe it's consistent with the plan of conservation development and encouraging in-law suites and dwellings to allow for seniors to continue to age with their families. And once again, I think that the location and the size of this property lends to allowing for this 600 square foot structure to be put in. I don't really have much more to add to that. I guess the only thing I would say is that they are hoping to move forward sooner rather than later to get this done, to get their mother-in-law in here. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have with this.
Questions for the applicant, please.
Ken Turner. David, hi. Do you have a landscape plan or some kind of indication about how the site is going to work as far as paving, light fixtures? What I see a floor plan, but I don't see it in context to the site.
Well, the site itself is, the area of the site is actually pushed into the area where the country club screening is. As far as light fixtures go, all they're going to have is light fixtures that are necessary for the property to have lights. I don't know if anything is proposed as far as like a path back and forth between the applicant's property or not. He didn't seem to indicate there was one, Mr. Loop, when I talked to him this afternoon. And like I said, we didn't put together a true landscaping plan just based on the fact that honestly, they didn't even think it was going to be required until they realized they were in this front yard setback. I can tell you that, on this particular street of Father Peter's, there's also, it is a private road. And as you can see by the survey itself, the middle of the road, there's actually an area between the property line and the road. So it actually feels like it's sitting back further from the traveled way than in fact, where the actual property line is. So I think you pick up an additional like 15 or 20 feet there. The only thing I can say about other site features is I do know it went through engineering and was approved because they had to get the septic system approved, which was approved. And I don't know whether or not any conditions that were a part of that engineering plan were obviously a part of this application. But we did not ask for a site plan approval here. We only asked for a special permit based on the fact that we did have it already sort of approved through the other departments prior to realizing the error in the front yard setback.
Okay. Thank you.
Dick Ward.
Yeah.
I'm a little curious as to why no kitchen type facility, if it's a live-in, sleep-in facility. I mean, will there be a refrigerator or a microwave or something?
I mean, I think there might be a hot plate of some type, but I think the plan is for the Loops is that in the end, she's going to be spending most of her time in the main house. And this is sort of her privacy area. This is where she's going to be able to go sort of to a different area to have her own privacy. I also know that initially there was no kitchen facilities proposed based on the fact that, as I said, they didn't think they were going to have to go for a special permit. So by moving forward with just a regular zoning permit, they had to basically say that they weren't going to be using it for any sort of rental purposes, which I think in the end was one of the reasons they decided not to put the kitchen in now. Now, moving forward, I think it would be, I told Mr. Loop that, now that you're going for a special permit, you could have, essentially put in a kitchen if you wanted to, because you would have been under the same special permit process. But they had no plans of doing that. Like I said, they were sort of ready to move on this a month and a half ago. And I think they have everything sort of set and ready to go. And, for whatever reason, they have no plans to put a kitchen in. I'm
Okay.
assuming if they have to come back to you, I'm assuming if they put a kitchen in, they'd have to apply for a zoning permit again. And I guess the question would be whether or not they have to come back for a special permit or not, because technically if you approve the in-law suite, accessory in-law suite, it could have a kitchen. But this one is not proposed right now. I know Mr. Casabont last hearing was concerned about sort of rentals happening on some of these particular properties. And, I didn't get a chance to sort of talk to that on our application, but I guess what I would say to that is that, in the end, obviously, if you don't have a kitchen, it's gonna be very difficult to rent from that perspective. But even with a kitchen in, I think we're talking about some of these structures, and if you have a kitchen or you're renting it, you're probably not renting it to families, like full families, like three kids, 2 kids, whatever. You're probably renting it more to singles, divorcees, maybe someone with 1 kid or not. So I didn't see it as much of a problem. I know I'm digressing a little bit here, but it was just something that I know he brought up last time that I would have commented on had it still been in the public hearing. And I'm not sure if that's what you're getting to with the kitchen aspect of it or not, Mr. Ward.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Chris?
Are any trees going to be taken down as part of the construction?
No, only added.
What are you planning to add?
They're adding 2 evergreen trees in the front of the property. And then I think they're doing some screening along the country club side of the property. I don't have any of that information because, like I said, this was something they were going for, which would not necessarily have required it. I don't know. I just know that they're putting stuff in the front for sure, and I know they're evergreens. And I know they're going to fill in a couple spots on the country club side, which is sort of less important in the sense that they don't really have a lot of neighbors on the country club side. I think they're giving it a little privacy to the mother, sort of on that curve of where Father Peters and John Marshall is. She may get some headlights in that area.
Certainly native foliage will be encouraged, so I'll mention that.
Of course.
Also, could you discuss some of the building materials, particularly on the outside of the building?
It's going to match the house that's there now, which is a gray clapboard house with a gray clapboard roof, So the materials are going to be the same as what's being used for what's in the house now. Obviously, there's going to be some updating based on the fact that we have a 1935 house versus what this is being proposed. But they want it to be sort of similar to make sure it looks like it should be in the neighborhood and a part of this particular piece of property.
And the heating plant for this will be on site or bleed it
Sorry.
off the heating plant? How do you heat is it going to be some kind of structure or wires connecting that house, the in-law suite to the main house for power and such?
I believe the power is coming from the main house. I don't know whether it has its own. I do know there's an area for mechanicals there. So my assumption is that there's absolutely like an HVAC system of some sort in that area, but I don't believe I do believe that the electricity is coming from the main house. I can check on that. Like I said, I don't know for sure because a lot of the stuff had already been approved ahead of time when they went for the initial zoning permit.
You plan to have utilities buried?
It shows on the plan. It doesn't show on the plan that it's going above ground. So my assumption is it's being buried, but Mr. Chris, I honestly don't know the answer to that. But I can certainly make that as a recommendation, or if there's a condition of that, obviously that wouldn't be objectionable to me at least.
Thank you.
This is Dan Radman. I have no issue with the application. I think the accessory structure and its position and scale is completely fine on the site. I do have a question, a regulatory question in terms of this particular, the reason for you coming to us for this special permit application. And this is more of a question to Lynn, I think. The site plan here clearly shows the setbacks. So you have a 4-acre zone with a 50-yard setback on the front. So we know that the building's not in the front yard. And the existing main dwelling is actually a little bit closer to the road. It's inside the front yard setback, probably by like 5 or 6 feet. So we know that this accessory structure is behind the front of the house because it's 115 feet back from the front yard. So do we even need a special permit application for this? Because according to 3.4.C.7, which is accessory buildings that are in that front yard, such accessory buildings shall comply with the yard setback for principal structure in that zone if the proposed is to be located in a front yard, then it must be 150 feet back from the street. But it's not in the front yard. And the reason I bring this up is, Lynn, you and I have had this discussion on other applications, and I think we continue to see these applications, and we'll continue to see them in the future, and we really need to wordsmith this particular condition or make it a little clearer and conditional on certain zones and sizes of lots, et cetera, because I think this is a little vague, in my opinion.
We can discuss wordsmithing it further. It did get approved originally as a straight zoning permit based on their calculations on where they put it. And RKW came back and said, well, it's really in the front yard setback. And so there was a little bit of a we had a little bit of a philosophical argument. So to settle it, we sent it for a special permit to err on the side of caution. So
I know, but it seems like we're needlessly making this applicant come in for a special permit.
And Dan, your point is the fact that it's actually behind the front of this building, of the house.
Well, we always consider the relationship of the house to the street, right?
Understood.
And how close is the front of the house to the street? So if this accessory dwelling, and like I said, the house appears to be something like 45 feet from the property line facing the street, the front property line. If the house was 30 feet from that the accessory dwelling was 30 feet from the front property line, then yes, then this would be a valid special permit application requirement. But in this particular case, that this accessory structure is well within all guidelines of setbacks.
Okay, well, I think, Dan, your point is we as a commission should revisit and wordsmith the appropriate wording. So.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else?
The final safety issue. It's right by a green. I'm wondering, have there ever been stray golf balls falling? Yeah, I'm wondering, going through a window or something like this, that's a safety issue?
Not that I know of, but there's a lot of woods from that green. And then on the other side, I think there's a tee box that's along the side there. So they would get it coming towards the west. But along that property line itself, it would not be hit, from what I remember.
So what hole is that, Mr. Rucci? I'm kidding.
On the old course, it was 16. I don't know what it is on when they redid it.
Okay.
I think it's 15 or 16, the long one up the hill.
Yep. Well, then you could have a wayward shot. I'm kidding. Anybody else? Okay, let's open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to address this application? Lynn, let me know.
only-
It seems like we just have applicants tonight.
We only have one member of the public. Mr. Campbell, are you here for this application? No.
He says no.
Are you here? Okay.
Okay, that's good. So this hearing's closed. Item number 2, 141 Hemlock Hill Road. Upon application, Daniel Radman, authorized agent for Mariko LeBaron, owner, for special permit approval of sections 34C1, 34C3, and 34C7 to allow the construction of a new 3-car garage with accessory dwelling unit above that would exceed the allowable 1,000 square feet of building coverage for property located in the 2-acre zone at 141 Hemlock Hill Road. Mr. Radman, and for the record, Mr. Radman, I assume you're recusing yourself on this application.
I am recusing myself. Rob Frangione, the civil engineer for the project, is on the line and he'll be making the presentation.
Mr. Frangione.
Good evening. Yes, for the record, Rob Frangione, Frangione Engineering. And with me, I believe on Zoom is Bruce Eckerson. I'm not quite sure if he's on yet. And Ted Siffel, who's the builder for the project. We're here tonight seeking approval for a special permit to demolish the existing 2 detached garages that have a total of 5 bays. And one of them has a 2-bedroom apartment above it. They'll be replaced with a single building that will also have 2 bedrooms. It'll be detached, and it's also going to serve as the pool house for the new pool. And this will only be a 3-car garage. The reason we need a special permit is because the detached structure will exceed 1,000 square feet of building coverage for an accessory structure. The proposed structure is going to be smaller in footprint than the total of the other 2 structures that are coming down, and will be set further back from the property line than the existing structures. Existing garages have a total of 1,627 square feet of coverage, whereas the new structure will only have 1,211 square feet. So it's about 416 square feet less coverage than what's there now. The existing garage is about 54 feet from the side property line. The new structure will be about 78 feet away from the side property line. So we're bringing it more into the interior of the property. Other than that, the property complies with all the height, setback, and coverage limits. We're allowed over about 12,124 square feet. And this project is going to have about 7,900 and change square feet of coverage. So we're well under our allowable coverage. Bruce Eckerson has prepared a planting plan to provide supplementary screening. There's already a bunch of trees on the property that kind of screen it from the front and from the side. We've received both health and wetlands approvals for the project. And the stormwater management system has been designed to reduce the peak flows to below existing conditions for all design storms. That's really all I have for the presentation. I'm here to answer any other questions should you have them, and hopefully we can get your approval.
Questions for the applicant, please?
John Chris. You mentioned a landscaping plan. What is that plan? I do not see it in the submission.
That's actually, it's up on the screen right now. You'll see that there's a lot of trees in the front that are there already. And Bruce has got some proposed trees around the front of the garage to kind of screen it from the right side from 131 Hemlock Hill. And again, there's more trees that are going to be behind the pool, between the pool and the wetlands.
What are the types of plants you are envisioning?
That I don't know. Is Bruce on right now?
I don't believe he is. He was not on before.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer for you.
Guys, it's Ted Seipel, the builder for the project as well. I know that the homeowners have spoken about the evergreen screening along that wall, specifically between 131 and 141. There's a series of very high white pines currently. They're frankly overgrown and intertwined. And the thought process right now is to replace several that we've lost over the last year and a half with additional evergreens, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 foot high if possible.
When you say evergreens, what do you mean by that word?
I'm not sure exactly what species.
Okay.
That's why I build them the pine tree in my book. But something that is evergreen, a white pine, I don't know what species exactly.
Again,
If I
remember, this
make-
building is going to be even further into the property than the current garage.
Hi, it's
Yeah.
Ken Turner. I've got a question, and maybe this is to Lynn, I'm not sure, or Dan. If I saw in the application that the area that we are approving or reviewing is limited to the garage and the structure. It's not the site. It's not the pool. It's not all the other areas. Could you please clarify that?
It's
We
this,
did get a permit previously from wetlands. What? There is an approval already on the property.
the only thing that you guys are looking at is they're coming in for a special permit because they have an accessory structure on the property that is larger than 1,000 square feet. And so they need your approval for that to occur via special permit. They've already been to the zoning board for the height and story of the structure. It's taller than the allowable building heights. And they've gotten the variances they requested. And the pool is going in separately. They're also in with wetlands right now. And I believe if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Frangione, but I believe it's going to be an administrative permit because it's outside of the buffer area.
We already got, actually, we got the approval yesterday from wetlands.
There you go.
So technically, our review and approval, potential approval, is strictly for the structure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Frangione, there's a memo from the town engineer. Did you resolve the engineer's points on the memo?
Yeah, I saw that. She has a question about water quality volume and how we have the Cultec units set into grade. They're fine for detention as far as the 25-year storm and all those kinds of things. All I have to do is lift them up a little bit to clear the separation distance above groundwater. And then we can count that as infiltration for water quality. So we can easily handle that prior to building permit.
And you resolved her questions on the differences between your plans and B&B Engineering's?
Yes, that was a prior drainage submission that they put on inadvertently. So.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's open it up to the public, please, Lynn.
Mr. Campbell, are you here for this application? No.
Okay. Okay.
That's all the public. Then you just have the press and the
Great.
applicants.
Excuse me. In that case, excuse me, this application's closed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, regular meeting, item number 3, deliberation, any possible action on a closed public hearing item. Since we just got done with this one, let's stick with this one. 141 Hemlock Hill Road. Do I have a motion for approval or denial?
Hi, it's Ken Turner. I make a motion to approve. And the reasons are because the overall footprint will be reduced as far as the coverage on the site. The new structure is very, very nicely designed. It will enhance the property and the neighborhood, and it is consistent with our POCD.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion?
I'm wondering about the planting plans, which there doesn't seem to be one, except going to be some sort of trees somewhere. It's not particularly specified regarding how many, what type, how big.
I guess, does that though go back to what we're approving here versus ZBA versus, I mean, John, did you want to suggest a condition or just making a comment or?
Well, as a comment, I think it's always helpful in all applications that the landscaping plan be as precise as possible with common name, Latin name, as well as exactly how big the plant's going to be. Is it a 1 footer or a 10 footer? So that we can best understand the full concept of the landscaping and can best evaluate it. So that would always be helpful. To the extent we can encourage the homeowner to use native plants, I think that would be a good thing, which is of course fully consistent with our plan of conservation development. It would seem that this is not falling in with our purview for this particular application, but that's something I certainly would strongly urge the homeowner to consider.
Okay, that can be noted. The commission's intent, Lynn. Okay.
Okay.
Kent, are you
So
comfortable?
do you want that added as a condition or just the intent?
Stick with the intent, John. Is that okay?
Yes.
And Kent, you move the motion. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I am. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay. Kent, you mentioned the smaller footprint, and I also think there's a greater setback now as well, unless you mentioned that also, Kent. So I would simply point that out. Anybody else? Okay, so I'll call the motion. John Goodwin, I vote yes. Mr. Chris?
Yes.
Mr. Radman? No, not Mr. Radman's recused.
I'll give you my opinion.
I was trying to catch you off guard there, Dan. Ms. Discornia?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mr. Cassavant?
Yes.
Okay, great. Motion is approved unanimously. Okay, item number 1. Let's go to 33 Father Peter's Lane. Do I have a motion for approval or denial, please?
I move we approve.
Reasons for approval, please, John?
It is certainly a legal accessory structure. It seems to be well designed. It seems to be relatively well hidden away from neighbors. One of the neighbors is a golf course, so no one's living there. So the impact there will be fairly modest. None of the neighbors have objected. The design of the building seems to be very consistent with New England architecture and is consistent with the main dwelling using natural materials. The only condition I would suggest is that we require that all utilities be buried.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Can
further
we
discussion?
ask, can we put that in as a condition to require the homeowner to bury the utilities?
Lynn, do you have a view?
I think you can ask it. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to the utility company what they're going to do, probably. But I'm sure you can request it.
Okay, thanks.
So you're saying it's not a condition, it's a request? Or clarify that a little bit, please, Lynn.
You can condition it, and at the end of the day, ultimately, I think the utility company is going to make a determination based on where the utilities are, but you could require it and ask them to do it.
Well, you would require it with the understanding that if the utility does not approve underground, that we would accept overhead.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays,
You can bury anything.
want to bury, exactly.
I agree. I mean, buried's better. I get it.
The last thing I think the mother-in-law will want is a tree falling across the wires to her dwelling in a storm. This does happen in town. You bury it, you don't have a problem.
Okay, sounds good. Did I get a second? I'm sorry.
Ken.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
Kent.
John? You good? Okay, further discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll take the roll call. John Goodwin, I vote yes. Mr. Chris?
Yes.
Mr. Radman?
Yes.
Ms. Discornia?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mr. Cassavant?
Yes.
Carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, Krista or Lynn, do we have any updates on planning subcommittee?
We didn't have Krista, I didn't mean to jump in. Did you want to speak? Oh,
No, you can go ahead. I'll give
Um,
you a turn tonight, Lynn.
Thank you. There is no meeting scheduled for tonight. We're hoping to have a meeting in January after everyone has there's a substantial amount of time between the January meeting. It's going to be January 26th. So we're hoping to have a discussion. We're in the process of putting together what will be on that discussion based on some of the comments from the last subcommittee meeting.
Okay. Krista, anything to add at your end, or that cover it?
Yeah, that covers it.
Okay, great. Okay. Item number 5, administrative actions, or I guess all you commissioners are, we're going for a world's record here, so I'm not going to delay this in timing. Item number 5, administrative actions or other matters as may properly come before the commission. Item A, approved 2021 meeting schedule. Did everybody get a chance to look at the schedule and any
Yeah,
issues?
The
with-
meeting for January 2022, I think it's supposed to be the 25th instead of the 26th.
Oh, okay.
I was just putting them all in my calendar today.
Okay, good catch.
We will
Yeah,
correct
'cause
that.
it gave the
The
same
25th.
date of the meeting for the 21st, so I see where you're going with that. Yeah. Okay, so Lynn, you got that?
Yes, we'll make the change before we post it tomorrow.
Okay. Everybody else comfortable with the schedule for this coming year? Okay.
Mhm.
It does not interfere with Halloween, so you're okay there, Krista. Okay, Lynn, do we need to take a vote?
Yes.
Okay, John Goodwin, I vote yes. Mr. Chris,
Yeah.
Mr. Radman,
Yes.
Ms. Discornia,
Yes,
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes,
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen. Ms. Nielsen?
You,
sorry, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cassavant?
Yes.
Okay, super. Item number 6, approval of the minutes, November 17, 2020, regular meeting. Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second,
Okay, John Goodwin, I vote yes. Mr. Chris?
Yes.
Mr. Radman?
Yes.
Ms. Discornia?
yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
yes,
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mr. Cassavant?
Yes.
Okay, well, that does it. Once again, as I said earlier, every year is a tough year, but I think we have a lot to be proud of what we did. And so happy holidays, everybody. Have a wonderful time and stay safe, and you all take care, and see you in about 5-6 weeks.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thanks, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays, everybody.